Okay, welcome back to the channel once again. This is your Liverpool Brothers podcast, and we are here to review the weekend games. Liverpool won away at Everton by 2-1. Manchester City won against Arsenal at home by 2-1. And those are the main games that we are going to look at. Of course, yesterday, Manchester United went away to Chelsea to beat them by 1-0. We'll also touch briefly on that. But how is it going, Stana?
Yeah, um, the weekend has been quite positive, I would say, especially Liverpool winning their game over the weekend. Yesterday's game is a game I didn't really enjoy much, but the game against City against Arsenal was one that I for one thought it really lived up to expectation.
Yeah,
What we
of course.
expected to see in
It
the
was
game.
an
A lot of
enjoyable
back and
game to
forth.
watch.
So,
The City
great
Arsenal
weekend of
game.
football.
The Chelsea one, not so much. It was a bit of a still game. But so let's start with the City versus Arsenal game. Arsenal, I think, played a bit better than I expected. Not with the ball, but without the ball. How did you see Arsenal's strategy? Do you think it was a good strategy to try and press City the way they started doing in that first half?
Yes, I think it was. I mean, you are saying you liked how good they were without the ball. I also liked how they were with the ball, especially since the Carabao Cup final, where um, we spoke about how Manchester City were trying to press them with that four-man attack with Cherki, Semenyo, Doku, and then Haaland with that flat four, where they allow them to pass it out from the back, but then it's kind of a passive press. They don't allow them to locate their man in the midfield and try and win that turnover from there. Arsenal were pretty solid in avoiding the pressing structure of Manchester City. So before the game started, I saw Havertz in the lineup, and that is when I even tweeted that I can kind of see what Arsenal want to do with starting Kai Havertz and then starting Eze on that left hand side, because it would mean that if they are not able to build up from the back as they would want to, they could easily go long, and Havertz will bring it down. Then they can advance play, and Havertz really did well in the first half. He won almost every single draw that he contested. He brought it down well, and then Arsenal were able to advance. So that side of the game that they couldn't solve in the Carabao Cup final, in this game they were able
Yeah,
to do
so
that. But
you think Arsenal
the
actually
game
did play well,
was
but on the
defined by
balance of
fine
play
margins,
and
I
the
thought, in
chances
the end.
created, do you think Arsenal deserves something from the game?
It's quite a difficult one. I don't think on the balance of play, I do think City edged this slightly. I do think City edged this slightly. I think Arsenal, especially if you look at something like the chance, it wasn't even a chance, but the shot from Eze that hit the post, that wasn't really a chance, but that was a good opportunity that Eze could have scored. I think the main glaring chance was Gay losing the ball in the back, and then Arsenal were through on goal, but Donnarumma made a very, very good save. That is probably the best chance that Arsenal had in the game. There was another one, but Havertz handled the ball, and then Bernardo Silva was able to clear. So, in terms of the chances, I thought City slightly edged it because City also got a fair few chances. Semenyo, if he had a very decent touch in the first half, he would have also been through on goal. So it was a bit jittery from both teams, I would say, because there were sometimes they are passing. I mean, it looked like both teams were a little bit nervous. Normally, you would not associate Manchester City with that, but they have new players. Not all of them are really used to this kind of situation. So sometimes you saw a bit of indecision from some of the players, but Man of the match for me is Nico O'Reilly. The way he performed today alongside Bernardo Silva, I think those two players were the key for Manchester City. And they ultimately were the ones, especially Nico O'Reilly. The second goal that Haaland scores, you see him, the position that he picked up, it prevented anyone from picking him up. And Donnarumma throws out the ball to
Yeah,
him. And that is
talking
how
about
City are able
Semenyo,
to advance to
I
the
actually
final
think
third.
Semenyo was
And then
quite poor
Haaland
today,
gets on
to
the
be
score
honest.
sheet.
He gave too much of the ball away. He got into positions where I think he could have done much better, and he just scuffed his chance. I don't know, but how did you see his performance? For me, he was absolutely atrocious. I was almost about to tweet that. So to ask the question, what is Semenyo's role in this particular game? Because I think it got to a point where City could have scored two or three more goals in this game after they got the second goal. But after they got the second goal, I kind of realized that they were a bit too relaxed. They were taking their foot off the gas a little bit. They didn't really go for the kill. And that almost allowed Arsenal back into the game. Because I think in that second half, Arsenal, City could have gone on to score one or two more goals. How did you see Semenyo's performance today? And also, if there's anyone else you want to touch on in the City team, Cherki, Bernardo Silva, I think they also had good games today.
Yeah. Yeah. Semenyo, it's really difficult talking about Semenyo because I mean he's a Ghanaian. We all ordinarily want him to do well, but this is actually not the first time I've seen Semenyo perform like this in a City shirt. He has had quite a few of these performances, and I was watching when I watching the game. The friend that I was watching the game with, he was quite surprised about Semenyo's first touch, especially that chance where he was through on goal. And I was telling him, this is not the first time I've seen Semenyo. Anytime Semenyo is under pressure, his first touch is not really that decent. I don't think technically he's at that level, the Cherki level, nowhere near that level. I mean, but it still should be better than that. I mean, some of his touches, some of his decision making, some of his crossing is not really up there. Semenyo's main threat is probably right now is his goal scoring. And so if he doesn't score or goal or create a chance, it becomes difficult for him to impact the game in a different way. I think he needs to improve a lot in terms of his all round game, the way he progressed play, the way he's able to link up with his teammates. He needs to do a lot more. He played far more minutes than I thought he deserved in that game. Should have come off a lot more sooner. But I mean, Ryan Cherki in that middle of the pitch, the goal that he scores is a moment of brilliance from Ryan Cherki. And I've seen the comparisons all over Ryan Cherki or Bruno Fernandes, and it's interesting because Ryan Cherki is that sort of player that you wouldn't really see him creating loads of chances every single time he's on the ball. But he's kind of a moment player. He picks his moment and then he's able to affect play. So Ryan Cherki really did decent. But my major concern in the first half for Manchester City was Erling Haaland. He wasn't able to hold the ball up. He was getting bullied by Saliba every single time he contested for the ball. He lost it. Probably the first time he won a ball was the goal that he scored. That was probably the only time I saw him wrestling Saliba or Gabriel and actually coming out on top. And it looked like for the goal, Gabriel was more concerned about winning the physical battle with Haaland rather than focusing on the game where the ball was going to land. Because if you look at him and you look at where the goal came, Haaland was able to hold him off exactly at the right moment to get the half a yard and then get that goal. So that was a bit of a mistake from Gabriel for the goal, but and it was a good performance overall from both sides. I thought normally when it goes like this, we would criticize Arteta a lot for how he set up, but this is really difficult because I don't see much else that Arteta could have done on the offensive side. They tried to play football, they tried to play the game, they tried to score goals, they tried to be defensively solid, which I thought they were, especially in the first half, limiting Haaland's ability to bring the ball down, and then Manchester City gained that control. That really helped Arsenal from Saliba and Gabriel, limiting Haaland's ability to get himself in the game. But fine margins, as I said.
Yeah, from what you are saying, it looks like both either team could have ended up winning the game. But when you look at the game, for me, what I thought was that this game was won based on how each team has been coached for a long time. So sometimes you can go into a game and use a specific strategy, try to change your strategy and head the opponent. But I think in the long run, the teams that have been coached very well, well drilled in terms of both defending and attacking, are the ones that win. Today, I kind of saw a difference between Manchester City and Arsenal, much like the difference that I saw between Liverpool and PSG in that midweek Champions League game. You can see that the game that was won on the day by PSG wasn't because of the tactics they came into the game with. It was because of the training they've done over and over and over again. The team has been so well drilled. So even no matter how much we tried, we still were a level below them. And I think Arsenal were still a level below City today. Even though they tried, they did their very, very best. I think today they showed themselves very well. They weren't like how they played in the Carabao Cup final. They weren't cowards. They tried to step up and match them boot for boot. They tried to hit them on the break, but they were still a little bit off the levels that they need to be. Just like actually Liverpool also, how we performed against City when we played in the FA Cup quarterfinal. We were trying our best. We were trying to match them boot for boot, toe to toe. But we were still a little bit below the level that we were supposed to be. And I think today that is what cost us now. The coaching in terms of how to attack and break teams down, how to carry a game to the opponent. Arsenal having been well drilled in that aspect. When it comes to the defense, yes. When it comes to set pieces, corners, yes. But when it comes to actually taking the game to your opponent, trying to break them down, trying to use passes to sort of dismantle the opponent's defensive shape, I think they are still a bit below the levels that you need.
But what do you think happens to the title race now? Do you think they might both drop
That was
points
what I was
again,
about to
or
come to. But let me give
like
my thoughts.
what
I think
happens to the dynamics?
the title race now, pressure is on us now. No matter how you want to look at it, there's a lot of pressure on us now because in the last 4 domestic games they've played, they've lost. So they haven't won a game in the last 4, including this game against City. So they are under pressure to perform. They have other games that look like a bit of a banana skin kind of game where the slightest mistake could lead to a draw or a defeat. I do think both teams will still draw points. Both teams will still draw points. But now, if City win their game in hand, which from the way things are going, is going to be scheduled right towards the end of the season, and it looks like they are going to win it. So it might even come down to goals. And this Arsenal team don't score a lot of goals. They don't. City do score a lot of goals. So it is very tight. For me, Arsenal are in very, very big trouble. For me, I think they are losing it. They are losing the title to City. What do you think?
Difficult. I think the same way though. I think the momentum shift from the Carabao Cup final. I mean, I did my analysis before the Carabao Cup final, and I was asked the question if, depending on how the Carabao Cup final goes, would it have a say, an impact in what happens in the Premier League? And I said, looking at the points gap, then I didn't think it would have a major, a major impact in the Premier League tie. But it looks like it did, and the momentum has swayed. And so I think the momentum is with Manchester City, and I think they will do it, even if they drop points. I think Arsenal might also drop points, and
Do you
eventually
think that there's an issue of
Manchester City will
injuries
get over the line.
that might be hampering Arsenal's chances? Because today you could see Madueke in that first half was absolutely woeful. And I think that is the reason why he got subbed off at halftime. and
Yeah.
Martinelli was brought on. So when you look at Arsenal's main players over the course of the season, it is Saka, it has been Gyökeres, it has been someone like, I think there's one more player who has been missing for quite some time. Even today, you could see that there are players on the field who aren't, you can't say they are fully fit. Hincapié, it looks like he wasn't fully fit. Odegaard, it looks like he's not fully fit, right? And so when you even Declan Rice, he's been played over and over and over
Yeah.
again. I don't know why Noga hasn't been given enough opportunities, because if you brought him in to try and supplement the squad, to try and improve your squad depth, and you don't use him, then it means you haven't really improved your squad depth, because it looks like Zubimendi and Declan Rice have been running to the ground. They've been playing over and over and over again. They played in midweek. Don't forget that City didn't have to play any game in midweek. So I think that is my worry. My worry is really the load on the Arsenal players. The fact that they are playing in the Champions League, they are now going to play in the semi-final against Atletico Madrid, and playing over two legs against Atletico Madrid. The things that those two games will do to the bodies of the Arsenal players, you can't imagine. And I think that is going to have an effect on the Premier League. So for me, that alone, the fact that Arsenal players look like they are getting tired and they still need to show up for the Champions League games as well as the games at the weekend. The advantage is with City. What do you make of Arsenal squad depth? Because we made a lot of noise about the squad depth, but now it looks like that hasn't really come into play in the period where they really needed the squad.
I mean, initially it did. When Saliba and Gabriel got injured, in part during the season, Mosquera came in, Hincapié came in, and they did a job. So in the beginning, it did have a positive impact, especially in the backline area, when those two defenders were out. But it looks like the major problem is the fullbacks, the right back and then the left back, especially Julian Timber's absence has really costed us now dearly. Because, I mean, I'm looking at some of the goals that Arsenal have conceded in recent times, and it looks like most of the goals come through the right-hand channel of Arsenal, where Ben White, who has come in, he hasn't been good. And it's the reason why he came off the bench today. He couldn't risk starting it because he knew Doku would run rings around him. And Mosquera did quite okay against Doku points. In the first half, he was struggling a bit. But in the wide areas, in the fullback areas, that is where Arsenal have really suffered without Calafiori and then Julian Timber. But you make a good point about the Champions League. That is very vital, those two-legged ties. And it begs the question, do Arsenal prioritize one of the competitions or do they still try and go full force? Because in trying to go for both competitions, they might end up losing everything. That would be an absolute disaster of a season for Arsenal. So it will be very interesting to see how Mikel Arteta navigates this final part of the season, depending on considering some of the injuries that he has, especially on the right hand side. It's not just about Julian Timber. On the right wing as well, Saka and Julian Timber, that partnership at the start of the season was really working, but it looks like that now looks like it would be the Achilles heel for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult situation for Arteta to manage, and we'll see how that goes. Let's move on to Liverpool. We scammed a win today. It was a scam of a win. When you look at the way the whole game panned out, first half, not really good enough. Second half, we came in, conceded the equalizer, and then we kind of stank out the place and then got a goal from a set piece. What did you make of the game today?
Really not much to make out of the game. Same old same. And in the final stages of the game, I kept on. I think I even tweeted that the Everton last minute goal had kept long because I mean it's the story of our season. If we don't score the winning goal, they end up scoring a winning goal against us. So I definitely knew there would be a goal at the back end of the game. It was either we scored or Everton scored the winner. Thankfully or hopefully for us, Virgil van Dijk, Captain Fantastic, he stepped up and got that winning goal by bullying Tarkowski in the middle of the penalty area, and they got that goal. The game, I mean, it's really difficult going in because it looks like you'll be saying the same things over and over again. It's the same things that we've seen for majority of the season. First half, a bit of intensity here and there, and then against a run of play, we concede that goal. Fortunately for us, it's an offside, and then immediately we're able to pick up ourselves and then get that goal. Very good pass from Cody Gakpo, and then Salah, the calmest man on the pitch, he slots that goal away, and now he has equaled Steven Gerrard for the player that has scored the most goals against Everton in the Merseyside derby with 9. That is his last goal in the Merseyside derby, and we have actually scored the first goal in the Merseyside derby at the Dickenson Stadium. So that will be one record Everton will always hate, but we now have that record for ourselves. So we get that first goal, and then what do? We are not able to kick on. And then we allow them to come into the game as always. The second half starts, and I hear the commentator is saying Liverpool are trying to be a little bit too clever, playing tippy-tappy. But you are just 1-0 up. And this is what we do every single time. And then the equalizer comes. I mean, the defending for that equalizer is absolutely shocking. But it is not shocking in the sense that we don't expect it. It is shocking in the sense that we keep on doing it every single time. And then they get that equalizer. And I'm even surprised they are not able to get the winning goal because they had fair few chances. But as you said, you scammed our way to 3 points. But at this point in the season and the running, we'll take it. Chelsea losing the game yesterday meant that the fifth spot is up for grabs, and we could even scam our way to 4th place. Who knows? Aston Villa got the last minute winner against Sunderland. I think they won 3 goals.
It was 4 goals to 3.
Or was it 4 goals?
It was
3-1.
3-1.
I can't really remember the scoreline.
And Sunderland got a goal, 2 goals in 2 minutes in that second half.
Yeah, 3-3. So I was really happy about that result because I thought Sunderland would be able to get a point at the Villa Park, but Aston Villa came back, and then Tammy Abraham with a very good finish. So we'll take that. But the performance, we are not seeing any improvement in terms of the performance, and it looks like that will be the same story till the season ends. For every game that we'll play from now to the end of the season, it will be inshallah, and then hoping if we'll get a win by playing not too decent, not very poor. We'll just stay in the game and see the outcome and what we'll get from the game. So
what did you make of Florian Wirtz's performance? Because today he got the ball nicked off him like 4 times in the game from the opponent, just running behind him, just coming from behind and nicking the ball. And I was like, man, so you don't learn from your mistakes. You make the first mistake, it gets nicked. The second time it gets nicked. The third time you don't even make any attempt to try and put your body between the ball and the opponent. I don't know why he keeps doing that. But today I was so disappointed with Florian Wirtz's performance.
Yeah, I mean, I quite admire sometimes his ability to do the same things over and over again. Because the ball gets nicked off. I mean, for any normal human being, when something happens once or twice or the third time, the 4th time you receive the ball, you know you have to release it very quickly. But he still wants to take his time. So sometimes I'm like,
for me, it's not about taking his time. I want him to take his time. But whilst you are taking your time, you need to put your body between the ball. You need to cover the ball area. Yes, protect the ball, win the foul. For me, it's okay if an opponent is coming from behind you and trying to nick the ball. Still keep it. But make sure you win the foul, at least. Just win the foul. But you don't allow the opponent to nick the ball off you, and then it's like we just get a turnover. You are the number 10, for God's sake. So you need to help us keep the ball, keep the possession. And I don't know why he's unable to do that. Today, I did like Curtis Jones's performance. Do you think it was a good decision to start him over McAllister?
I don't think he. I wouldn't call it a good decision. I think he has no choice than to start Curtis Jones ahead of McAllister. Because right now, I don't think it's even a point of contention to choose between Curtis Jones or McAllister's form. I mean, on the ball, of the ball, McAllister has
But
been
don't you think
absolutely
he started
atrocious,
Jones because
and we know Curtis
this
Jones.
was the Merseyside derby, and Jones is a local lad, and he would be able to bring the best out of himself compared to McAllister. That is why he started him, and this is not going to continue.
That's a good point. But not just because he's a local lad, but also because the Hill Dickenson Stadium, Liverpool going there, it's a derby. So in the middle of the pitch, need someone who's a bit more calmer, can retain the ball a lot more, and that is what Curtis Jones also brings. But going back to Florian Wirtz, I just saw a stat that aside Bruno Fernandes, he's the one that has created the most chances. And then you look at that on paper and it's like, I mean, he's faring quite decent, but I am still not impressed. I need more. I need more. I need more from Curtis from Florian Wirtz, a lot more. His decision making is really not there. He received the ball 10 times, and I'm expecting him to make eight good decisions out of 10 times, 10 balls that he receives every single time. But he's not able to do that. For a player for that amount of money, he should be doing a lot better than that. He should be doing a lot more better. But going back to Curtis Jones, yes, he had a decent game. And I think those types of games are games that really suit him. Games that go in, especially at an away game where you need a bit of composure, a bit of arrogance on the ball. He's a player that will offer that. So it was a good decision for the manager starting Curtis Jones over McAllister.
Quickly before we move on to briefly discuss the Man Chelsea game, the starting lineup came and we had Szoboszlai playing at right back. That was the formation that we got. But it looks like it was rather Curtis Jones who played at right back, and he was inverting into the midfield whenever we had the ball. So Frimpong started from the bench. Why do you think he started Frimpong from the bench? What did you feel or think prior to the beginning of the game? Did you think it was a good lineup having Szoboszlai at right back? But also in the game, it was like they were sharing the position. Szoboszlai switches to right back for some time. He goes back into midfield. How did you see that dynamic playing out?
Yeah, I think it was more to do with the opposition because we are playing against someone like Eleman India. He's a really pacey winger, and he brings that sort of directness. So Jeremy Frimpong, his 1v1s are sometimes a bit questionable. He has the recovery pace, but his defensive awareness and his when you play him, especially against Everton in this kind of game, you limit his ability to go forward. So maybe, yeah, I think that is his thinking, playing Curtis Jones as a right back. But before the game started, I mean, I thought Szoboszlai was the one going to be at right back, or like we've seen before, and then Curtis Jones would be the sitter. But they were changing as the game progressed. So one comes in, one goes there. So good communication from both of them, and then that was I think that was the idea. That is why he dropped Jeremy Frimpong for the game. But maybe also slightly at the back of his mind, he knows Jeremy Frimpong has that sort of injury concerns, and the intensity of this particular game might be one that Jeremy Frimpong might find a bit difficult to deal with. So maybe that was the reason, which ultimately turned out to be a good decision.
Yeah, so now I do think going forward, if we are a little bit serious, we might nick fourth place. And for me, that would be a good thing to end the season with. And I think that should be our aim and not fifth position. Going to the Man Chelsea game very briefly, maybe 1 minute before we end. What did you make of the performance of Chelsea in that game? Do you think maybe Chelsea deserves something, or you think they weren't threatening enough going forward to get the draw in that game? Because I think they could have nicked the draw if they had taken some of their chances. But Man U got away with a win at the Stamford Bridge. And also maybe touch a little bit on Liam Rosinia and the pressure he's under so far.
Yeah, Liam Rosinia is under a lot of pressure. And I gave a stat before the game that if they are not able to score a goal, this would be the fourth consecutive game without scoring. And this would be the worst number of games Chelsea have gone since 1998. That they've gone 4 consecutive games in the Premier League without scoring a single goal. And maybe the fairer result on paper would have been a draw, because I think both sides didn't really do enough to win the game. But Man United ultimately got the job done, and the key difference was Bruno Fernandes. He's the one that ultimately made the difference between the two sides. Chelsea had fair few chances, not really threatening enough, and that has been their story for about a month now. Their inability to get on the score sheet. Palmer hasn't really been himself of late. His performances, Caicedo as well in that midfield. He is someone that has really dropped up, especially since Liam Rosinia took charge. But ultimately, it looks like Liam Rosinia has really lost something. The players and then everyone within that football club, the fans, you can see they are not really behind them anymore. The trust is not really there. And since he came in, even when he was winning games at the start, there was still questions about some of his tactics, especially a game like West Ham. They played West Ham, they considered 2 goals, and then they came back to win that game. But most of the people felt he got away with that game because the performance in that first half was absolutely atrocious. He was able to come back and win that game against a poor West Ham side at the time. And so even when they were winning games, the signs were there that this might not be sustainable in the long run. But for me, I don't think he's the man for the job. Eventually, I think he will get the boot. But for now, the Chelsea ownership, I think they are a bit too egotistical right now to admit maybe we made a wrong decision here. They would try to ride it as long as they can if he can get back some sort of momentum. I don't see where Chelsea get another 3 points till the season ends, honestly. I don't see where they get another 3 points. Because even though it isn't really down to a lack of fight, but it's just the cutting edge. The cutting edge is not really there. And kind of the game, whenever they are playing, looks like they need someone to show a bit of personality and get something out of nothing and then try and get a goal. But no one is really there to carry the side and bring the game over the line for Chelsea. But his tactics and everything in the games, he's always trying to, first of all, not to lose the game, be defensive. That first half against Manchester City was a good example of him trying to limit Manchester City, but not really have solutions in the other end, trying to get goals. So in the second half, when teams change a little bit, he's not really able to adapt and then counter what the opposition manager brings. And that stems from the quality of his coaching ability on the touchline. That's against the quality of the Premier League right now, because you could probably do that at Strasbourg. But for Chelsea, I don't think in the long run, Liam Rosinia is the man for the job. I don't think he's the guy.
Okay, so Liam Rosinia might not be the guy. That is where we end our discussion today. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. Also comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on the Premier League, on the Liverpool game, the Arsenal versus City game, as well as Chelsea, Man United. We'll see you later on. Don't forget to share the video as well. Talk to you later. See you. Bye.